Howdy and welcome back. Today we're going to work on wrapping up our game with having an actual ending. So this isn't the last video, there'll still be one about polishing up a few features, but this is effectively the end of the game. So with today, we're going to see how to have essentially a nice ending screen to wrap up the story and I guess allude into a potential sequel. So with that in mind, I have created three sprites, one for the player ship, one for the station that the entire game takes place on, and one for an enemy ship. With these three little things in place, these three sprites, I'm going to go ahead and jump over to our rooms folder, and I'm actually going to duplicate our menu. I'm going to rename this to be room ending or end. So this is duplicated. So with that in mind, a couple of things we need to get rid of. First, as we had with our room menu, having game being persistent, transition is also persistent. So we actually did not need to have a copy of it in every single room, because if we go over to the OBJ transition, this is persistent, so we actually can remove it from our testing rooms. It's just one less thing to have to worry about. Let's see, what level was this in? Oh, we had already moved it, so I know it's right here. So just getting rid of OBJ transition. In room end, we're also getting rid of transition, menu, and game. And I'm probably going to get rid of Jupiter and Mars. Now we've got these little elements. And I'm going to play around with the position of Earth. I'm going to drop it a bit. So we now have a nice little clean setup to serve as our background, and instances is empty. What we're going to do is actually create two new objects for us. Actually a total of 4 objects. And yes, and 1 extra layer. No, not tile layer, my bad. We will instead be creating a new background layer. Move this here, and this will be station. And it is going to have the station sprite that I have just carried over. And I'm going to drop this a bit. Yeah, that looks good enough. We actually have it have a vertical speed of -5, so we'll slowly transition towards the left. So now that I have that down, I need to make sure in our testing room, I'm going to add just a temporary portal right here. And this will actually go to the end just so we can quickly test this out. So now that we have that, we can then work on creating 4 of our objects. Our first object is just going to be create object. This will just be obj_player ship. we're just going to grab the sprite that I have from before, player ship, add in a create event. This create event will just handle our variables, and specifically we establish where I want to pop this in. So for scale, I want this to actually start out very small. Direction set equal to 5, so that's 5 degrees from the horizon up, and then our speed is 0.5 pixels per frame. Then in the step event, and this will handle growing. I'm gonna have the image underscore x scale is equal to the smaller of scale times 1.7. So it constantly grows by 70%. And it'll either be at whatever value it is, or 1, whichever is smaller. That way it doesn't get bigger than I actually want it to be. Image Y scale, exact same situation. Now we've got our ship created. We actually can create our enemy ship as well. I'm going to just duplicate the player ships. Enemy ship here. Make sure I'm working on the enemy ship, switch the sprite before I forget. Then in our create event scale, I'm gonna actually make sure I started at 1. And then the direction, I believe I had it set to, I think 7 looks more interesting. And our speed is going to be, let's do 1 and see how that ends up looking. No, actually do 1.5. Then our step event, rather than grow, I want this one to shrink. We're actually going to make it get smaller with each step by 70%. So multiply by 0.7. And this will be relevant later, but we need a trigger to actually end the game. And so I'm going to have this object move across the screen. When it has gotten past the middle of the screen, it will trigger the end of the game. Slide, transition, and it's going to be transition mode, go to, and it's going to go just to the room underscore menu. So now that we have, actually, let me zoom in for y'all, apologize for that. So now that we have the create event and step event for our enemy ship, we also have the create event and step event for the player ship. We then need to add in our exit screen object, which will handle all the text that we're going to display. So obj underscore exit screen. So in our exit screen, I did not mean to open the wall. We're not going to have any sprite. We're just going to open up with a create event and a step event. So the step event is going to be handling building our text. And our create event is going to have text. So this portion, I'm just going to copy it over from some stuff that I've already written to have a closing story. But the important thing here, just to understand what I'm doing, I'm creating a array of items, specifically strings. These are the text pieces that I want to include in my game. Because I know that our screen size is only so big, I make sure that once I get through enough characters that I think this is going to take up the screen, I'm going to do a \n. And then that ensures that it gets pushed to the next line. Now, visually, just for me to keep track of it, I'm doing this. So that way it's easier for me to see, okay, I put \n and then concatenate it to another string. So that way I can see the different breakdowns. You can follow this pattern, or you can just all write on one super long line that goes through several different characters all the way past to the end, but this is just cleaner for me to look at. Then, as we had mentioned in the previous video where we keep track of our kills, we have a variable check here. If we have killed at least one person, then my fourth item, index 3, states how many people we've killed. Else, if we did not kill anybody, it has a different text. And so this is a fun little flavor. If you can survive the game without killing anyone, it says something different. Then I have a last text just to close it off. And then we just specify our font is equal to the font_end. And then our X value is simply equal to display_get GUI width, and then get GUI height. Or get GUI width divided by 2. And then get GUI height divided by 2. No, font end, that's not what I want. I want which of these has a good predetermined size? That's a little bit too big. I think I'm just going to use font menu. Might increase the size, depends on how it ends up looking. You can end up making your own font if you weren't happy with that and wanted to change it up a bit. And I'm going to set a variable I is equal to 0 and the text in, so that way we know where the final part is, array_length ID of the text list. Now that we've got that, let's see, did I spell this correctly? Oh no, one-dimensional. There we go. Now we've got these variables declared. We're going to use these in our step event. Now that we know what the center is, it's where we station ourselves. But since we're just an empty sprite, it doesn't really matter. The I is going to keep track of which item we're specifically printing out, and then text in just lets us know whenever we reach the final item. So back in our step event, we're going to specify if there is not an instance of obj end text. It's an object we're going to create in a bit. If we don't have any text currently on the screen and I is less than the text end, we haven't displayed our last message, then all we do is text is equal to text list of I, and with the instance underscore create layer at this X, at this Y on our layer, I'm going to create obj_end text. So I'm going to create a new text box in this specific location. Text is equal to other.text, and length is equal to string underscore length of text. then I is equal to the smaller value between I plus 1 and text underscore text end. So I'm going to create a new text box so long as the current text box does not exist. It just grabs the text from our list of things to print out. After it's printed everything out, else if I is equal to the last text item, I'm going to spawn in with instance underscore create underscore layer at 0 and 700 pixels. This is just arbitrarily decided. You can play around with it. Of course, you probably will have a completely different ending than mine. This is just what I'm playing around with. I'm going to have an enemy ship spawn in and chase after my player. I actually don't need to set any of these values because those are all handled in our create event. And then I++. That should push us out of there, and then we'll be good. So we now have an object that will create text boxes for us to see the ending sequence of text displaying in our room. I just want my end room to display all this text to kind of wrap up the story. But this object in text needs to exist. So what I'm actually going to do is modify our obj text. I'm going to duplicate it. There's enough things that are different. Obj end text. With this, actually, I'm going to jump into here and we play around with a couple of parts. So with our create event, let's see, we are keeping everything in here with height, border, font. The font's going to be font in menu is what I'm using. And then our X is set equal to display underscore get. Actually, we don't need to set our X value because we use the same X value from up above. So no need for that. Our create event is good. Let's look at our step event. Okay, good. Yeah, most of this should be set. Yeah, nothing to modify in here. The draw text, this is where it's going to be a little bit different. We will instead change this event to be a draw, wait, where is it? A draw GUI. All right, everything is good for this. All right, I think we are set for this event. No other modifications, I believe, need to be made. So now it's just a matter of going to our room end and then adding in our player ship. It's going to be flying out from there. What I envision it's going towards Earth. Actually move this to 1,000, 1,200. There we go. And vertical, no, horizontal speed, -2 or -1, actually -0.5. Slowly transition. Everything else is handled by the variables. This comes in, and then the other thing is exit screen. So assuming we typed everything correctly, we now will simply be having our little object fly over into towards Earth just to represent that. And you'll see in a moment, testing room. I'm going to jump into this portal, takes me to the exit. You survived. After finding the shuttle to leave the station, you managed to escape into the Sol system to reach to Earth. I might have to play around with some of the text. You reflect briefly on the others you found on the station. You escaped without harming anyone. And so that shows that text is working. I might have to slow down some of the movements. And let's see. Ooh. So first, the text speed, I want to speed that up a bit. The step event, no, create event speed. I'm going to change this to be 5, twice as fast. Now with that, let's minimize this portion. We don't need this. Font is good. That should be satisfactory. Player ship, I think I'm going to reduce the speed to be 3. And then double check where some component is off in the exit screen. So we create the enemy ship. Here, yep, that looks correct. I++, yeah, all of that looks fine. Oh, in the enemy ship, if our X value is greater than room width, our X value gets created at X is 0. That should be fine. Go to menu. For whatever reason, it was skipping that step. And let's run that one more time. The text goes by faster, so that'll be better. So go to the testing room, fall into the portal. You survived. After finding the shuttle to leave the station, you managed to escape into the Sol system to reach Earth. You reflect briefly on the others you found on the station. You escaped without harming a single person. Perhaps you can one day return and rescue them. Okay. Yeah, something's going wrong with the creation of, so we're not supposed to move only if our X value is greater than half of the room width divided by 2. We get created in the bottom left corner according to the exit screen. Also, while we're at it, I'm going to, I changed the text on the wrong item. This stays at 2.5 text. In text. This needs to update to 5, so that way it's faster. In text is the one that gets updated. Now for here, it is not displaying our last item because of some component with this is going off. Enemy ship at, I'm just gonna throw it, 700 in the bottom left corner. Enemy ship. Scale 1, direction 7, speed 1.5, step. So I found the mistake. It was actually here. I accidentally thought room width was a function and put open close parentheses. We don't need that. We only need to deal with it as a variable. So we don't have to worry about that. So make sure you make that change, remove those parentheses. And so this is what it looks like. You survived after finding the shuttle to leave the station. You managed to escape into the Sol system to reach Earth. You reflect briefly on the others you found on the station. You escaped without harming a single person. Perhaps one day you can return and rescue the others. You wonder what Earth has in store for you, ... Then we see the ominous enemy ship moving towards us. And then the game ends. That wraps up our game. So we have seen how we can just duplicate our main menu screen or room, make a couple of modifications, change up a few items, and build off of existing ones. So that way we can have a fully functioning in-game scene with items moving in the background. We really just had objects set to move on a single line, but with the text displaying sort of the story and what was going on, we had a nice closing to the events of our game. So if you have any questions or need anything from me, just let me know. Otherwise, that's all we've got for today. Everyone, have a good one.